and progress. If there is one defining trait from December 7th, 1941, it's grit. That resolve to withstand everything when the odds seem insurmountable. The attack decimated the Pacific Fleet, but rather than paralyzing us, it ignited the sleeping giant, mobilizing the entire country virtually overnight. Americans across the nation demonstrated their unshakable resolve. Shipyards worked tirelessly to produce vessels in record time. Pilots trained intensively, and families rationed and sacrificed for the war effort. The grit of that generation is exemplified in the efforts like raising the USS West Virginia, which was repaired and sent back into action, or the USS California, refloated, modernized, and returned to battles to fight at Leyte Gulf. These monumental undertakings symbolize the nation's refusal to surrender, even under the direst of circumstances. For my grandfather, grit became a way of life. Severely burned on over 65% of his body, he faced a choice no 19-year-old should ever have to make: succumb to the flames or fight for survival. Crossing the rope was an act of absolute stubbornness. Despite the pain of burned hands gripping a rough line, he pressed forward, traversing near the length of a basketball court, all driven by the will to live. That singular moment of grit defined not only his survival, but also the legacy he carried for the rest of his life. The future USS Arizona represents the determination to honor the past while forging ahead. It ensures the name USS Arizona is associated not only with loss, but with new resilience, strength, and an unbending will to sustain against all challenges it may come up against. Compassion, though quieter than acts of heroism, were equally vital in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. Sailors risked their lives to save their brethren and their crew from the flames. Medics worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded. Civilians donated blood, delivered supplies, and provided comfort. Compassion-fueled acts of bravery that saved countless lives. For my family, compassion has always been central to honoring my grandfather's memory. His story is more than bravery or resilience. It's about the relationships he forged and the gratitude he carried for those who cared enough to act. Joseph L. George, the sailor who threw the rope that saved my grandfather and 5 others, embodied that compassion. Joe defied orders to cut the lines to the burning USS Arizona, instead choosing to throw a rope to my grandfather stranded on the platform. Joe could have looked the other way, followed protocol, and prioritized his own safety, but he didn't. His compassion led him to act, and in doing so, he gave those 6 men a chance to live. Decades later, my grandfather and other survivors fought for Joe to receive the recognition for his heroism. And that bond of compassion is part of what keeps the story of Pearl Harbor alive and thriving through 83 years of history. It reminds us that humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to care for one another, even in the direst of circumstances. The 803 crew embodies this principle. The Navy's mission is rooted in compassion, protecting freedom and lives, even at great risk. Every mission undertaken by this submarine will reflect the belief that safeguarding others is a noble and necessary calling. Loyalty is another lasting quality that connects us to those who came before us. It is the steadfast commitment to one another, to a shared mission, and to the values we hold dear. 83 years ago, loyalty bound sailors to their shipmates and leaders to their crews. For my grandfather, loyalty was woven into the very fabric of his being. Despite his injuries, he re-enlisted in the Navy. not out of obligation, but out of loyalty to his fallen brothers and the ideals that they had fought to defend. The naming of SSN 803 after the USS Arizona reflects this same sense of loyalty. It is a commitment to honoring the legacy of those who served aboard the original ship and the promises that their sacrifices will never be forgotten. Amid the weight of tragedy, joy may seem elusive, but it is vital. Joy gives us strength to persevere, the capacity to celebrate life, and the ability to honor those we've lost by cherishing the world they fought to protect. For my grandfather, joy was not the absence of hardship, but the ability to embrace life despite it. He lived through unimaginable pain after the attack, both physically and emotionally. Yet even as he carried the scars of that day for the rest of his life, he also carried an appreciation for life's simple joys. Whether it was sharing stories with family, enjoying the laughter and antics of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, or sharing a quiet moment with my grandmother, watching this incredible life they created go by, my grandfather found ways to celebrate the beauty of the world he had fought so hard to preserve. Joy was also present in the bonds he shared with his fellow survivors. Their annual reunions filled with laughter, camaraderie, and heartfelt remembrance were a testament to the enduring connections forged through a shared experience. Even as they honored those who were no longer with them, these gatherings were infused with a sense of gratitude for the lives they had lived, the friendships they had built, and the chance to tell their stories to future generations. The Arizona to come symbolizes this same unwavering sense of joy. While its mission is serious and its purpose rooted in the solemn memory of the USS Arizona, it also represents the celebration of progress and the resilient strength of the human spirit. The commissioning of this submarine will be a joyful occasion, not because it diminishes the tragedy of Pearl Harbor and the USS Arizona battleship, but because it honors that tragedy by showing how far we've come. It will be a moment to celebrate the ingenuity, teamwork, and dedication that made its creation possible, as well as the sailors who will serve aboard her. Finally, joy reminds us to cherish the freedoms and opportunities we enjoy today. Those who fought at Pearl Harbor did so out of love. Love for their families, love for their friends, and the ideals that made life worth living. By finding joy in our lives, we honor their sacrifice and ensure their efforts are not in vain. As we reflect on Pearl Harbor's history, let us remember that joy comes not from ignoring hardship, but from celebrating the triumphs born from it. It is about gratitude for the present and hope for the future. In this hallowed ground, in this sacred place, we are connected by the stories of the past, the challenges of the present, and the promise of the future. Whether through doing the hard things, courage, grit, compassion, loyalty, or joy, the lessons of Pearl Harbor will continue to guide us forward. As we look towards the commissioning of the future USS Arizona SSN 803, let us carry these values with us, not just as a tribute to those who came before us, but as a commitment to those who will come after. Thank you, and may we always remember Pearl Harbor by living lives that honor the sacrifices made. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nikki Stratton. So this morning, we will place wreaths to honor the territory of Hawaii, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Coast Guard. The wreaths will be presented by active duty and Guard service members, National Park Service Rangers, and this year, in keeping with the theme of passing on this enduring legacy to our future generations, the Wreath presenters will be joined by members of the local McKinley High School Junior ROTC, cadets of the Civil Air Patrol, and cadets from the Junior ROTC unit of Campbell High School. The wreaths you are about to see presented are an expression of our gratitude and a symbol of our unending appreciation of service and sacrifice. Today, with these wreaths, we honor all the heroes, military and civilian, who lost their lives on December 7, 1941. This formation, moving from the Remembrance Circle, which preserves the names and memories of each American who lost their lives on December 7th, represents our past and present. It honors those who fought in the name of freedom 83 years ago and recognizes the veterans and current active duty members who continue to serve our country with honor, courage, and commitment. The wreaths will be placed in the contemplation circle as an indelible reminder of the legacy of these service members and civilians, and the hope that every future generation never forgets the many sacrifices that make freedom possible. The bell from the USS Arizona will sound in honor of the sacrifice of each service. We remember the territory of Hawaii. On that fateful morning, we remember the 49 civilians who lost their lives as a result of the attack. As a base for all of the military services, the then territory of Hawaii and its citizens played a major role in one of history's greatest salvage and repair efforts, quickly restoring most of the damaged ships and expediting their return to the fleet. Hawaii's citizens opened their homes and businesses to servicemen stationed in the islands and to those returning from war patrols. Today, the state of Hawaii remains a strategic and welcoming home port for our military, continuing to offer aloha to all. Representing the territory of Hawaii is CSM Brandon Kumale of the Hawaii Air National Guard, Ranger Joe Borgia from the National Park Service, and McKinley High School Junior ROTC Cadet Captain Amara Aro. We remember the United States Army. While many history books tend to focus on the Pearl Harbor attack, the brave members of the United States Army fought diligently to defend their posts on December 7th, 1941. In total, 233 soldiers were killed during the surprise attack. Today, from Schofield Barracks to Bellows Airfield, the U.S. Army stands ready to defend our nation and maintain a steadfast presence on Oahu. Representing the United States Army is Sergeant Richard Rodriguez, Ranger Tito Griffith from the National Park Service, and McKinley High School Junior ROTC Cadet Captain Ryan Kapakungan. We remember the United States Marine Corps. Many may not realize until visiting the USS Arizona Memorial that the United States Marine Detachment made up part of each battleship's crew. A total of 109 Marines lost their lives that day, 105 perished aboard ships in Pearl Harbor, and 4 were killed in action at the Eva Mooring Mast Field. Today, Marines continue the tradition of serving our nation wherever and whenever they are called upon. Their commitment to self-sacrifice and dedication provide a cornerstone for our nation's defense in the challenges of the 21st century. Representing the United States Marine Corps is Sergeant Alan Reyes, Ranger Phil Legenfelter from the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Lieutenant Robert Kabating. We remember the United States Navy. (1,999) sailors lost their lives in the December 7th attacks on Pearl Harbor and Naval Air Station Kaneohe Bay. Many sailors met their final resting place in the waters directly behind me while defending their ships and helping their shipmates escape the burning waters. Many more assisted in rescue and recovery efforts in the days and weeks that followed. The sailors of today's Navy continue to serve with honor, courage, and commitment to protect our nation's interests at sea. Alongside America's allies and partners, they stand ready to provide maritime defense, preserve economic prosperity, and keep the seas open and free. Representing the United States Navy is BM2 Jesse Moore, Ranger Daniel Dapais from the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Lieutenant Commander Juliette Castone. We remember the United States Air Force. Though not yet in service in 1941, the United States Air Force was formerly referred to as the Army Air Forces, and here on Oahu as the Hawaiian Air Force. On December 7th, Lieutenants Ken Taylor and George Welch scrambled to their aircraft parked at Haleiwa Field and took off to brave the skies against incredible odds. Today, airmen serving the United States Air Force in Hawaii continue the legacy of the defense of America's vital airspace interests and around the globe. Representing the United States Air Force is A1C Sloan Campbell, Ranger Susie Schmalbeck from the National Park Service, and Civil Air Patrol Cadet Captain Adam Etlich. We remember the United States Space Force. America's newest military branch, the United States Space Force carries the proud legacy of the Army Air Forces as guardians of America's interests around the globe. They represent the latest example of carrying on the legacy of the generations of Americans we honor today. The Space Force Guardians in the Indo-Pacific stand vigilant to safeguard American assets in orbit from physical and digital attack in the ever-changing challenges of the 21st century. Representing the United States Space Force is Specialist 3 Holly Morang, Ranger Dustin Furlong from the National Park Service, and Civil Air Patrol Cadet Tech Sergeant Lillian Burrell. We remember the United States Coast Guard. At the time of the attack, U.S. Coast Guard vessels in Hawaii were all stationed in Honolulu. At 6:45, the patrol craft Tiger intercepted a dispatch from USS Ward that claimed destruction of a submarine. Later, Tiger itself came under enemy fire as it participated in the defense of Oahu. The United States Coast Guard continues to serve as America's frontline agency for enforcing the nation's laws at sea, protecting the marine environment, and providing life life-saving sacrifices. Representing the United States Coast Guard is AET-3 Jacob Keller, Ranger Joseph Wool for the National Park Service, and Campbell High School Junior ROTC Cadet Ensign Hayden Umayam. At this time, the Wreath presenters representing today's generation of veterans will salute the greatest generation for their service and their legacy. Would all Pearl Harbor survivors and all of our World War II veterans please remain seated so that we and all who are present here today can honor you. We acknowledge that on December 7, 1941, and in the years that followed, you executed your duties at your posts and weathered the storm of war. It is because of you and all those who served 83 years ago that we enjoy freedom and liberty in this great country today. Will everyone else please stand and join me in expressing our appreciation? A grateful nation applauds you today. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the benediction and the Marine Corps rifle salute. At the conclusion of the rifle salute, a bugler for the United States Pacific Fleet Band will blow taps from the contemplation circle, symbolizing our commitment to always remember the lives lost on that day and to carry on their legacy of hope in the defense of freedom and lasting peace. Captain Gary Thornton, Navy Region Hawaii Chaplain, will now offer the benediction. Please welcome.
Aloha and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in this prayer of benediction. Let us pray. Keakua, God of our fathers, Creator God, as we stand on these hallowed grounds, Pu'uloa, as we look upon this national shrine, we guard in our hearts the sacred memory of those who gave their lives here so long ago. Bless us, O Lord, as we humble ourselves in thy presence, paying tribute to our shipmates and other service members, those from what many have called the greatest generation, who so valiantly served our country, many of whom rest here today in honored glory, ever on patrol. Amidst the peace and tranquility of this place, we pledge to remember their heroism on the 7th of December, 1941. We will never forget the courageous exploits and the incredible legacy of those who made the supreme sacrifice, who paid the ultimate price along with those who survived, was not in vain. At a moment's notice, they, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and yes, Coast Guardsmen, defended America's freedom. Those who died paid the ultimate price, demonstrated and upheld America's fighting spirit. Immortal One, we give you thanks today for those brave souls. Almighty God, you declared that no greater love hath any man than to lay down his life for friends. May we each and every one be willing to follow their example when duty calls. May we embrace and embody that same warrior ethos, all the while praying for the day when our enemies become our friends, when our swords shall be beaten into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. A day when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn or wage war anymore. Eternal Father, until that glorious day, and as we prepare to depart this place and forge on, we ask that you would bless us and keep us, that you would make your face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us, that you would lift up your countenance upon us and grant us your peace. This we ask in your most holy, mighty, matchless, and wonderful name. Amen.
Captain Thornton, thank you so much. Stand by for rifle salute. Side boys post. On behalf of the National Park Service of the United States Navy, thank you for attending today's observance of the 83rd anniversary of the attack on Oahu, and for continuing to remember and honor the sacrifices made by those who served here December 7th, 1941. To those who are watching our ceremony through our online broadcast, we also extend our sincere aloha. Thank you to the Defense Media Activity providing the live stream. This ceremony would not have been possible today without the critical assistance of Pacific Historic Parks. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party. United States Pacific Fleet departing. Navy Region Hawaii departing. Mr. Tom Leatherman, Superintendent, Pearl Harbor National Memorial, National Park Service, departing. Miss Nikki Stratton, sponsor, USS Arizona, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please take a moment to meet our veterans in attendance and offer a personal expression of gratitude for their service, their sacrifice, and for giving us the opportunity to honor them here today. Please enjoy the patriotic music performed by the United States Pacific Fleet Band as you depart. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Mahalo, aloha.